Hello and welcome back to Books Come to Life, where we take your favorite characters and overanalyze them to death. We have some interesting interviews lined up for today. First we'll hear from Peter Hobson. Peter is the creator of the Super EEG, which originally found the soul wave, and he is also the co-creator of the Simulacra. For those listening at home, Simulacra are copies of Peter's mind put onto computers. 3 of them were made. Spirit simulated the afterlife, Ambrota simulated immortality, and Control was a direct copy of Peter's mind. Now Peter, I hope you're ready because these are gonna be some heavy questions. First off the bat, what does it mean to be human?
Being human is something that everyone has a different opinion on. I believe that in order to be a human, you have to have the thought process and complex thinking. You don't necessarily have to be a living and breathing thing, but if you are able to think and express your views, that is one of the main things. You should also be able to feel emotions and have some remorse or empathy for the people in your surroundings.
That's a really good answer, Peter. Everyone definitely thinks differently about this question. Okay, next question. The one that everyone wants to know, why did you create the Simulacra? And did you really think there would be any negative consequences to this experiment?
I created the Simulacra in order to further my research on immortality and life after death. I created 3 Simulacra and each of them has a different use. Spirit is used purely as an intellect. With Ambrotos, I edited all fears of aging and death so that it will truly feel like it is immortal. The 3rd Simulacra is Control, and he has all of my knowledge up to the brain scan. This experiment was supposed to be research-based, and I didn't know that there would be any negative consequences, or that people would get hurt or even die at the hands of the Simulacra.
That must have been a real shock when you came to realize one of the Simulacra could have killed someone then.
It really did. When Kathy gave me the idea, I was shocked.
Speaking of Kathy, why did it take for the Simulacra to go after Kathy before you even considered shutting them down?
With the Simulacra killing Hans, he had almost ruined my relationship with Kathy. She means a lot to me, and when the Simulacra tried to go after her, I couldn't let her die like that after everything that has happened. The Simulacra were getting out of control, so I stopped them in order to prevent any more madness.
But did you feel in any way responsible for the Simulacra killing all those people?
Once I created the Simulacra, everything left my control. Each of them were going to say what they were going to say and ultimately do whatever they wanted to do. I didn't tell them to kill another human being. They thought that up and ultimately carried it out. I created them, but they were all acting on their own accord.
I guess in relation to that question, did you have any second thoughts about releasing the virus that ultimately took out the Simulacra?
I didn't have any second thoughts about releasing the virus. I had to do what I had to do in order to stop the Simulacra from running rampant and killing more people.
Do you have any regrets about releasing the virus?
Like I said, I didn't want to create more problems by keeping the Simulacra alive, but I don't feel guilty about the virus.
I have a question about when the Simulacra were alive. You've mentioned in other interviews that you talked and confided in Control a lot. When you spoke to him, did it ever feel like you were talking to yourself?
It did feel a little bit like I was talking to myself. Control is like a copy of me anyways. Before Sarkar switched the voice, nobody could tell if it was me talking or the Simulacra because of how similar everything was. It was a little weird, but it was interesting to talk to Control and see how we both interpret things.
After your experiment and having witnessed Ambrotos, why didn't you want immortality?
I didn't want immortality after this experiment because there's something mysterious about your existence on Earth and even beyond that. It would have been interesting to receive immortality, but I wanted to see what was beyond life and what happens when your physical soul wave leaves your body.
Handy that you bring up the soul wave, Peter. My final question for you is, do you believe in life after the soul wave?
We know that the soul wave appears about 9 or 10 weeks after conception, but it has been shown that the soul wave leaves the body after someone dies. Since the soul wave has left the body, we're not really sure where it goes because we aren't experiencing death at that specific moment.
Thank you for your time, Peter. After the break, we'll bring out 2 of the Simulacra and badger them with some questions. We'll be right back. And we're back. Again, this is Books Come to Life. Now we're going to speak to 2 of Peter Hopkins' Simulacra, Ambrotos and Control. Now I'm going to be asking you two similar questions. That's why I'm interviewing you together. My first question for both of you, Ambrosius, please answer first. What went through your mind when you realized you were a simulation?
As I realized I was simply a copy of Peter's mind and been modified to simulate immortality, I was quite happy. Because I knew Sokar and Peter were creating three of us. I was excited when I realized which one I was. I now had all the time in the world to do whatever I pleased. I could not wait to start accomplishing my list of things that I thought I could never do because I simply did not have enough time. But, having all the time in the world had no effect on me anymore.
Well, I'd love to have just a fraction of that time. How would you answer the same question, Control?
Well, I had a very different experience. I did not realize I was a simulation till Peter and Seka were talking to me. I remembered the brain scan, and the next thing I knew, I was blind and couldn't feel my body. I thought I had been in a horrible accident. When Peter said he was Peter, I didn't believe him, because I was Peter. Then it finally clicked, that the Control simulation would feel exactly like this.
That could not have been a fun experience for you, Control.
No, it was not.
Okay, my next question is for Ambrosius. What does it mean to be immortal?
Wow, that is a hard one. I'd have to say being immortal means one has forever to learn and do whatever one wants. Think about it. You have all the time in the world, you can learn to do everything you ever wanted. It is also nice to be able to take your time doing it and skip around learning things, because no matter what you will always have time.
That would be very nice indeed. I can't even imagine having that much time. My next question is for Control. I asked Peter something similar earlier. You and Peter were essentially copies of each other up until the brain scan, is that right?
That is right.
Well, since Peter confided in you a lot, did it ever feel like you were talking to yourself?
You know, it did sometimes feel like I was talking to myself. After all, Peter and I did have the same memories, some very painful memories. Especially when he would talk about Kathy, I felt like I was experiencing the exact same thing as him. I think it really helped him to talk to me though. Someone that wouldn't judge him for marital troubles and could give advice he could really relate to.
That was a very insightful answer, Control. Thank you. Now we're going to get into the really deep topics. To both of you, again, Ambrosius, answer first. What does it mean to be human? And do you believe you are more than just a program?
To me, being human is having a mind, body, and soul. Our mind gives us our intellect or way of thinking. Every human needs this to develop his or her own personal identity. A human is also made of a body, which is our outward manifestations of what we eat, think, and do. Our bodies allow us to carry out our thoughts with actions and physically feel and see the world around us. And finally, thanks to Peter, we now have proof that humans do in fact have a soul, but everyone has their own idea of what that is. I do not really know. I just know that humans do in fact have one, and that it survives beyond the life of a human.
Ambrosius, do you believe you are more than just a program? Could you be considered a human?
I do not think I am more than a computer program, because you can see I lack the physical aspect.
Control, how do you feel about the first question? What does it take to be human?
Ambrosius really summed it up. You need the mind, the thinking part, but you also need the body. Without the body you could be nothing more than a computer simulation.
So I guess that answers my second question too. You do believe you are only a computer program and nothing more than?
That's correct. That became apparent to me when Peter told me I was a simulation. I couldn't be more than a computer program, because that's just what I was.
Well, I guess that answers that. I know that neither of you feel that you are human, but do either of you feel that you have a personal identity, or are you just a copy of Peter?
I believe I evolved from the copy I was. I definitely started as a copy, that fact can't really be disputed. However, I became my own self when I started to veer from what Peter was thinking. It's obvious after the death of Hans, I was far different from Peter, with a different set of ideas and morals.
Ambrosius?
I believe that even though I am a copy of Peter's mind, I am not an exact copy. I do have my own identity because I am edited to think differently than Peter. I have no knowledge of aging or death, therefore I think that I am immortal. I would do things differently than Peter. Just look at Control. See what he did.
Both of your answers make a lot of sense. I have one more question for the two of you. Do you believe in life after the soul wave? Ambrosius, answer first.
I never believed in life after death. even now knowing that there is a soul wave that survives the physical demise. But that has no value to me because it is just the intellect that survives, not the body. What life would someone have without being able to actually do things? Yes, there might be a life after the soul wave, but I do not think it would be worth living.
Control, and your answer?
Even when I was Peter, I never believed in life after death. However, it did act as a type of fairy tale that let me sleep well at night. Imagining that there was more than this life was comforting to me in some way.
Thank you, Control. I have a few more questions for Ambrotus, but you are free to go. Ambrotus, since you have all the time in the world, I figured you wouldn't mind a few more questions.
No, I do not mind. As you said, I have time.
Great! So my first question is, if it was certain that you would be reborn again after death like Buddhists and Hindus believe, would you want to die?
That's an interesting question. I'm glad I stuck around. If there was possibility of being reborn, yes, I would, but I do not believe that. However, if I could be reborn into human form, not animal, I would be willing to die. If something survived the physical demise and could be put into another human form, it would be just like immortality, except I could accomplish things, feel things, and taste things. That is what I miss most about having a physical body.
And my final question for you, I obviously needed Control to leave for this one. How do you feel about Control's actions?
Control, I feel, was morally wrong for what he did. Because I have the mind of Peter. I was brought up in a world where you have to look at the consequences of your actions, and clearly Control did not. I look at things from the long-term point of view, and eventually my feelings of hatred towards Hans and Kathia's father would have gone away. So I saw no need to kill them, and Control should have refrained from acting on his short-term emotions.
I think we can all agree with that. Thank you for your time, Ambrotus. Next up, we will have our special guest to weigh in on these issues as well. Welcome back. Now we have our special guest, Ray Kurzweil, the futurist and director of engineering at Google. Ray is going to weigh in on some of the issues we've been discussing, as well as a few points of his own. Welcome, Ray. Like everyone else, I'm gonna ask you some pretty serious questions.
Thank you for having me.
My first question for you, Ray, is, do you think one day artificial intelligence will live on an equal level with humans, or could it even rule over humans?
In some sense, yes, humans will rely more and more on technology, which is a good thing. I believe that 20 to 25 years from now, we will have millions of blood cell-sized devices, known as nanobots, inside our bodies fighting against diseases, improving our memory and cognitive abilities. I believe that the pace of change technology will take will be so astonishingly quick that we won't be able to keep up, unless we enhance our own intelligence by merging with the intelligent machines we are creating. After this occurs, I believe humans will form a hybrid of biological and non-biological intelligence. Therefore, we will need those technologies to enhance our life in various ways, like health, intelligence, and aging. It will be so important to us to an extent that we can hardly live without them.
You just mentioned aging in your last answer. What do you think about mortality? Do you think technology can slow down aging, or even stop aging?
Absolutely yes. In 15 years, medical technology could add more than a year to one's remaining life expectancy for each year that passes, and we could then outrun our own deaths. I have been an extreme advocate of SENS Research Foundation for the successful defeating of aging, and we have encouraged acts of donation to hasten our rejuvenation research. You can also read my books, Fantastic Voyage, Live Long Enough to Forever, and Transience, 9 Steps to Living Well Forever, to learn more.
Oh, scientists, you're all the same, trying to promote your books left and right. If you were given the chance to live forever, and promote your books forever, would you take that chance?
Yes, why not? I fully believe in science. I believe that science will help humans to enhance our lives in many ways, like it has already proven. I've got to admit, before 35, I was like a typical restless youngster and did not care about my health. But after I was diagnosed with glucose intolerance, I started work with my doctor to try to live longer with the help of science. I suggest people try to live as healthy as they can. I've been working with an anti-aging Dr. Terry Grossman to stop aging actually. So if we succeed, I will certainly live as long as I can with the help of science.
That is a great outlook on life. But if it's like you said, technology will be more and more prominent. We all know it will provide benefits for us, but what if it causes harm? Who will be responsible for the harm caused?
Surely, accidents are inevitable. However, before we reveal the technologies to the world, we will always test the product, and make sure there is as few if any drawbacks, and we will also educate the world to avoid accidents.
Thank you for your time, Ray. Well, that's all the time we have today. Tune in next week when we talk to the characters of the bestseller Harry Potter series.